All right, let me reset the mic. There we go. Hey, get it. Oh, now we go. Okay. Hey, Shaggy SoCal with Tour for Forza, and time for next round of track guides for Season 8 in TNT in this 1998 or is it 97? I always forget. What is it? That's not going to tell me there. Anyhow, it's a Porsche GT1 Strassen version. Um, these next two tracks very going to race very, very differently, mainly because of the draft. But first race on hand will be at Hockenheim here at the full circuit. I think we were, if I remember correctly, we were just here last season in the BMWs. So definitely needed to unlearn a couple of things. There are some of the things, the bumps as far as the curbing that maybe upset the BMW a bit more, don't seem to trouble the Porsche as much. Um, but like I do all the track guides, I'm just going to go out, going to run a few out laps, just kind of get refamiliarize my brain with what I need to do here. And I'll probably do the slower kind of track walk, pointing out a couple of things, what I'm doing with the car, getting it through the corners, what it seems to like, how I tend to drive. Um, and then I'm going to have to, and again, because I do need to do some sort of practice in traffic, and see how good my or bad my racecraft is. I'm going to run a race against the AI with what I think is about the race length. Matt hasn't updated the spreadsheets yet with time of day or uh, or race length, so I'm kind of basing it off of kind of my roundabout time on the mediums, figuring that that's probably in the ballpark. But let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and run some out laps. The other thing I wanted to talk about, just on the out laps, is tire wear. There's been, again, it tends to come up with like, I'm going to try and explain not just what I'm doing with this particular car, but how I'm driving in general. As far as why, like, okay, Road America on the mediums, I got 9 laps out of those tires at the end of the race, and it only just turned 60% on the left front out of the final turn on the final lap. So I'm going to kind of talk about, maybe get a little more in depth on tire management, what I'm doing, and why, as far as my philosophy is, again, it's, to sum it up, it's smooth as fast, but let me hopefully try and describe what I'm actually doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Maybe that'll help you guys sort out, get your tire wear a little bit better. Because again, if you can find that balance between pace and conserving the tires, you've got, it'll give you flexibility in your pit stops. And it's like, maybe, hey, I can push an extra lap if I need to, because I need to extend an extra lap depending on the pit cycles. It'll give you a little bit more flexibility in strategies, as far as it's also just in management as far as tire wear. Maybe you conserve your tires enough that you've got a little bit more late in the race when you need to make that pass for that extra position. But we'll see how it goes. Anyhow, I'm done enough talking. Let me go out and just start running some laps. Let's go ahead, start race. Make sure the gear shift is in first gear. Another little update, test drive. Now, if I have it on standing, it actually does do a standing start. I don't recall it ever doing that in the past. It used to always do rolling. Or maybe I'm thinking free play. I don't know. So right now, again, for test drive, I always tend to test drive. Ooh, hang on. Let me lower that a little bit. I like engine noise on my ear, but not that much. So anytime I'm doing tire testing to kind of figure out the roundabout laps about when they hit 60%, I'm always kind of doing it, no track rubbering, starting time of day at noon, partly cloudy, and then I always run 50% fuel. And I figure if I do that on all 3 tires, it's the most consistent testing I can do. Coming down here for the hairpin, I'm looking for the I think those are porta potties there on the left side. That's a good reference point. It's easy to spot at distance. First gear, second gear, I don't know about that, but always watch the wheel spin on the way out. Okay, use the outside curving here as a guide. I can gear, watch the wheel spin here. Short shift to third at the turn in. Still pushing a little bit, probably because tires may still be a little cold. Look for the tree, turn in at the speakers. Kiss the curbing there, or try to. Look for the corner worker shack on the outside. In second gear, gently back into the throttle because it flattens out. You can kind of cross the curbing here, brake at the first access road there on the right. Second gear, short shift to third. And I'll be able to cross that curbing later on once the tires are really warmed up. But I think one of the things I want you to keep an eye on is just how much steering I'm putting in. I'm not really going much past 45 degrees unless it's a really, really sharp turn. Like this one, I'll probably go at least to 90 degrees on the turn in. So a little bit past, kiss the curbing there, roll back in the throttle, cross that curbing. And again, don't need a lot of steering there. At least as far as how I approach balancing the car, it's kind of based off the controller. So I mean, for you guys that haven't done Forza on controller in a while, even on normal steering, you can only put so much steering input into the car. So I can't turn the wheel farther than the controller will let me. So if I find the car's understeering, the only thing I can do to balance the front end is with the throttle. So crack the throttle, let the front end grip up. Oh, I need to rotate the car a little bit more. Let me stab the throttle a little bit. I'm just simply trying to do the same thing on the wheel. I'm finding that point where I don't need to put much more steering in. If I'm on throttle and I find the car's pushing, fine, I'll just let off the throttle a little bit. Don't change my steering angle, but just ease off the throttle, and usually that does a lot to bring the front end back in line, and I don't have to over scrub the tires. Because the way Forza does its tire wear indicators, as long as the tires are white, you're pretty much in the optimal grip for whatever stage the tire's in. But if you're under braking or you're rotating, let's see if I can get the front ends yellow here. I'll throw a whole lot of steering in. So I'm almost 180 degrees on that. And then it heats them up and then it gets all out of control. I guess I'm getting on my soapbox a bit. If you're finding that you're going through a lot of corners and you're lighting those fronts up, and here under braking, tires are going to go yellow when you lock them. I don't see it in the rearview mirror, but I bet you I'm going to turn around and see a nice pair of 11s down here into turn one. And there they are. So if under braking, if in the middle of a turn, if you're seeing those front tires light up and go yellow, I guarantee it's too much steering, or maybe you have enough steering, but you're too hard on the throttle and you're just putting extra friction into the tires when you really don't need to. Because it will actually, it does two things. One, you're scrubbing lap time because you're now trying to force the car to overcome additional friction because you've turned the wheel too far. So it's going to slow you down. You're going to lose tenths that way. It's also going to put unnecessary wear on your tires. So then, if you guys are like, I don't know how you got 9 laps on those mediums. I got 9 laps on the mediums because I found that right balance between pace and scrub and just being as smooth as possible. So that was kind of one of the purposes of the track guides is to kind of give information of like why I do what I do, even though sometimes what I do is stupid. But if it helps kind of help you guys find pace or find consistency, that was the other main goal. So I want you guys to I want to help you guys get faster. So that makes the racing more fun when we're all kind of running at least as close on pace as possible. So even there, I'm really not going much past 45. So let's talk about the slow track guide here. So for me, coming down here to turn one, um, I've been debating back and forth on this. I think for me, I'm looking for the one boards. It's easier to, as you approach turn one, it's easier to see the outside curbing and kind of use that as the first reference point. But I think the breaking point is, depending on the tire you're on, depending on if you're in traffic or not, is looking for that one board, and I think, a generally good place to break at. You'll be in fourth gear. I've tried it both ways. I actually like third gear through turn one more than fourth gear, and I'm going to go back to one of my old cliches. It's like, do you want the car on its heels or on its toes? And I find that by putting it in third and getting the revs up and getting a little bit more of the engine braking, it just puts enough weight on that front, helps slow the car down. The just car feels like it's more stable through one. If you want to do it in four, I think you can. You just got to be a little bit more present on your braking to get the car slowed down in time. So, and I always tend to try and get all my braking done. Again, it's that whole mid corner. That's the other thing I need to do. Otherwise, I'm going to be popping clutch here. Let's just go back to manual for right now. That way I don't have to worry about trying to do clutch. So I'm going to brake about the one, and I'm going to be looking for the inside, the inside curbing. Now, knowing us, I wouldn't be surprised if there's three cones or bollards on the apex of turn one are going to stay there the entire race. But you do have the red curbing in there. But for me, it's brake, brake, brake down to third, turning in probably about when starting to turn in as I get to that. We'll see if I do this because I'm focused so much on the inside curbing. I'm not paying attention to exactly when I'm turning in. It's kind of oh yeah, now we turn in. But I think it's usually right about the 50 board, right about where the corner worker cabin there is, shack or whatever you want to call it. But for me, turning in, ideally, I want to try and turn in so I can, I don't really want to get on the red curbing because I'm not exactly sure how much of the inside we can take. And I think we've learned in other cars in the past, the red curbing, you can kind of flirt with it, but you hit it with any significant force, it will be enough to kind of bounce the inside of the car off, and depending how much speed or the yaw in the car, send you a little bit wide on exit. But ideally, you do want to use a little bit of the inside of the curb. I'm going to try and, whether I'm perpendicular or parallel with the three cones there, you can kind of even kind of aim for them. So if you want to say like, hey, I want to aim for the final one there that's just on the other side of the red curb, I'd say that's a good aiming point. But inside of the curb here, roll back into the throttle, third gear up to fourth. The outside curbing here, um, again, maybe it's just horrors from Forza 7 with how bad the cars sometimes would get bucked on the curbings here at Hockenheim. This car in current Forza Motorsport, it seems to handle this exit curbing a lot better than maybe we're used to experiencing. So you can use a bit of it. I would say, if at all possible, if you could be neat and tidy and carry speed and be neat and tidy and not use the exit curbing, that might be a little quicker. We'll see how it plays out in the race. But if you need to get your left sides on the curbing, you can. Just know that the track limit does, like where that blue curbing ends and comes into the narrow one, that track limits does come in with that outside edge of the blue curb. So if you go way wide, just really try to start bringing the car back over because you don't want to be too far over and hit track limits. If you do completely bollocks the turn and you're out past the curbing, what I probably would suggest is kind of get the car set and get it handled and then just accelerate up, get on the green here and kind of merge back in at this point. That'll give it's kind of a freeway merging kind of situation. It'll give you plenty of time to get the car settled and get it back up to speed. It gives, if you're in traffic, it'll give competitors enough time to, to exit out and then move back across the track to kind of give space heading up into turn two. Let's see. So third gear back up to fourth. I don't think you get to fifth. But for turn two, for me, I'm going to brake for this now. Not the sharpest turn on this circuit, but I'm going to be looking for the two things I'm looking for heading into the braking zone is the orange painted Armco and then the access road the safety crew access road where the green is. The braking is kind of in between those, and I think that'll vary depend on tire that you're on, conditions. Heaven forbid we're in rain, but even again, daytime versus middle of the night, track temp not as grippy at night. Also, track rubbering later in the race, lighter fuel load, track rubber there, you might have a little more grip. But I usually those are the two I'm kind of looking for. So brake, 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 brake. Look into the inside, down to second gear. Um, I always have my philosophy of I want to try and turn in so that I'm parallel with the inside red, breadloaf curb there. Because what I'm trying to do is let the car come out a little bit, but bring it back across. In the ideal world, is I want to be kind of parallel with the right side access road here at this point. Again, my whole philosophy is I'm going to sacrifice the exit out at the sharper corner to open up, this next curve onto I think they call it the curve. I think they actually call this straightaway the carousel. I have to look at the track map again. But since this next left-hander, it's a fast left-hander, but it leads on to arguably the longest straight on the track, most important turn. So I want to be able to carry as much speed and be as smooth as possible, little steering as possible. So if I can, I want to try and bring the car back across, and try to have it at this point, um, heading in. Now for F1, and you can see the tire rubber that's kind of on the track. I think the line the game's going to want you to take is maybe more of a compromise line. Is carry a little bit more speed out of turn two. It's going to put you a little bit more to the middle of the track, but I think there's enough downforce with this car. Even if you do that a little bit, if you're even at the middle of the track, you should still be able to carry full throttle through this next corner. So depending on what happens, I think this is where I say this is what I tend to try and do. Probably as the race goes on and I get more in rhythm, I'll probably be more. You can kind of see the darkened rubber here. So I'll probably, you know, even if I'm here, I'm still far enough out that I can still take this next corner flat. The inside curbing, again, Forza 7, inside curbing here used to be diabolical if you hit it wrong. Um, this game, you can use a bit of this curbing. I haven't, in the laps I've done so far, I haven't had a situation where I've gotten on the inside curbing and in transitioning back off of it, have had the car take a significant bump. So you can use a little bit of that curbing out. Again, keep the steering as smooth as possible. You can let the car come out. If you can keep it neat and tidy and keep all four tires on the track, great. If you happen to get out in the curbing here, that's fine. Again, it's more harsh bumpy here. I'll probably get out here during the mock race, but you can just gently bring it back across. It doesn't upset the car that much. So, kudos to Forza for turning down the volume on the curbing here. Though I think, again, compared to the BMW, I think maybe the Porsche's damping is a little bit more curbing friendly than say what we had last season. So heading down the longest straight here, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, maybe fifth gear, and depending on the draft. Usually, I'll start to in this curve, bring the car over the left side so that I'm on the left side when it straightens out. And the first thing I'm going to look for is, actually, I do want to get a close look at it, is down. Now, at this point, as I'm passing under the bridge, I can already see the braking boards. But what I'm looking for just to the left of that is you can see the porta potty. Pretty sure that's a porta potty. That's the first thing I'm going to look for. That is a good target as far as knowing where to get to the brakes. That's kind of like the point in no return. If you're braking past that, you're probably gonna go long, or you're gonna be really locking the tires and revving, dropping the yeah, it is porta potty. So yeah, porta potty. It's right about the 150 board. It's also right before the curbing. So again, this is another one of those. I'm looking for the porta potty. The braking, depending on situation, that would be on the early side. The start of the curbing would be on the late side. As far as like no later than that. And again, it depends on tire dependency. track rubbering, fuel, all the variables that play into it. Certainly, if I'm following somebody and drafting somebody, if I'm not in a position to make a pass, I'm not going to try and brake at the 150 board. If that's where they're going to brake, I'm going to brake at the porta potty and just try to maintain the gap so I'm not running into them. I mean, I missed my braking at Sebring and almost murdered Hitman into the hairpin at Sebring, but let's talk about that situation. This is going to be a calamity hairpin. If you find you miss your braking, the worst thing you can do is try and give yourself space. If you're not going to take the shot, ease off early a little bit, be ready to brake so that you're not running in the back of somebody. If you think you're going to take a shot, move in, try and get in that position to get on the brakes, but don't forget where you need to brake. If you find like what I did at Sebring, where I'm following, I wasn't intending on passing Hitman, but I missed my braking point and then saw the gap start to close to him a little too quickly. There was room to the inside. I just got to the inside, and then I actually released the brakes entirely so that I would shoot past him before he would turn in, and then getting on the mic going, "Oh shit!" I think I had that happen to Beamers with Matt at turn 2, where I had the same thing. I missed the braking, and instead of just plowing into the back of him, I just kind of ducked to the inside, released the brakes so I could shoot past him, so that I'm not taking anybody else out. I get the worst of it because I go off and I lose a lot of time. That's the ideal scenario. We'll see what happens here. But if the same thing happens again, you've got plenty of runoff here to go wide and get the car turned, get the car turned and back on track. What I would actually suggest is, depending on where you go off, if you don't think you can get back on the track safely, I would probably say at this point, just because the natural line out is to go out to where that red curbing is, I would just use the additional pavement on the left side of that red curbing and go past that and then merge back onto the track at that point. Again, it gives time for those of us that are on the racing line. Once we kind of hit the exit, we see somebody out there, we have a chance to move back across and give space. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I haven't talked about how to get through this turn to begin with. So let me go back here a little bit. Which button is the emergency brake? Nope. There we go. B. So again, brake, 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 brake. Gearing for this hairpin. My eyes, when I'm coming down for the hairpin, is I'm looking for the apex. I'm trying to keep my eye on that apex. I haven't decided which gear is best. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. It's either first or second. For me, the turn in is, and again, I'm not really paying attention to what's on the outside here. What I've noticed peripherally is I'm tending to turn in just as I'm getting to just as the orange Armco painted, or that's actually not Armco, that's concrete, or the orange end of the concrete barrier there kind of starts to go out of view. I find that's about when I'm turning in, right? Release the brakes and I'm turning in. Don't know if I'm really on the throttle. I might be, again, I tend to balance the car, get my braking done. I tend to try and balance the car with the throttle through the turn. But ideally, if I do it right, you're going to get to the curbing, not really crossing it, but just kissing it. This is the hard part. And this is where, depending on first gear, we are running a turbocharged engine. So you have to be, if you're going to be in first gear, rolling into the throttle, be gentle, because your higher RPM is going to spin the turbo up quicker. It's going to be really easy in first gear to light the rear tires up. So, and that's from a standstill. Let's back that up. So if you're going to use first, that's fine. Just be mindful. You might roll in partial throttle, and slowly get in, and maybe not really commit until you're almost out of the corner and have most of your steering. Again, the more steering you have in, if the tires light up, is probably what's going to cause the back end to swap out on you, getting back to throttle. So if you can just, the less steering you have in when you commit to full throttle, the less likely, if the rear tires spin up, that you are to have the car hook and go back to the right side. You'll be able to throw a little corrective steering in. Second gear works as well. The The advantage of second gear is because it's the higher gear, your lower RPMs, the turbo's not going to spool up as quickly. You might be able to be a little bit more aggressive getting back to throttle, but the 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 downside is if you're a little bit slow coming out, as far as how much speed you have coming out of the corner, getting back to the throttle, you might not get the acceleration out in second gear that you would in first. So there's pros and cons to it. I'm not, and I think for me it'll be situational as well. I think maybe in traffic, I might drop it to first, but then I do have to remember I've got to be careful on the throttle on the way out, especially in traffic. In the stress of having to make quick maneuvers, you might you know hit the throttle a little too much and spin out. So just this is one turn that's going to be it's going to be interesting in many different ways. Passing on the way in, throttle on the way out. Watching the wheel spin, but that's the hairpin. Heading down the short straight here, into the next couple of turns. What I'll be doing is, especially as I get comfortable, I'm actually going to start straddling the line because I do a drive-by braille at this point. So the turn-in point for this next right-hander, once the tires are up to temp and you're in rhythm, regardless, I think on all three compounds you can do it flat. Certainly, the softer the compound, the easier it is to do flat. The harder the tire, the more you have to be online to do it. But for me, the drive-by braille technique is I'm going to cross the white line here, and when I feel, because I'm looking I'm going to be looking for the apex here, but generally on my own, you're going to feel when you hit this curbing, because I want to hit it with the left side tire. Just as I hit it, I should be able to start turning in. Now, at this point, because I'm going so slow and I'm not, scrubbing the fronts, but it'll allow you to carry the speed through. You can get on the curbing here a little bit. Worst case, if you feel that the car's pushing a little bit, again, this is back to my, controller philosophy. It's like I can only move the stick so far to the right. For me, the corrective action is, without changing my steering angle, is just to crack the throttle. Just not all the way. It's just enough. Take some of the torque out of the back wheels. It just puts a little bit more weight on the front because it's not accelerating. And that'll bring the front back in line. You'll find the front tires you'll regrip up and you'll be fine to bring the car back over and set for the next turn. So, but generally, you get the line right, you get the turn in right, you should be able to do it flat on your own. In traffic, again, everybody's going to be a little bit different. You might do a confidence lift a little bit just to gauge, what's going on in front of you. So the car will probably come all the way out here. You can get on the exit curbing here a little bit. It's not going to hurt it that much, but you want to bring the car back over. Now, for me, I may be braking here much earlier than the rest of you. And this is, again, I'm not using the braking line, so I'm not, going at the absolute last minute to get on the binders here. So I think that's also part of maybe why I can be a little bit smoother with the car, is I'm braking a little bit sooner. I'm keeping the car a little bit more level, so I can actually, I'm not carrying too much speed into the corner. But that's a whole other thing. But what I'm looking for here is I'm mainly looking at the left side to where the grass starts on the left. It also kind of corresponds with where, kind of about where the blue and white curbing on the right side kind of goes to full width. That's about where I'm braking. And ideally, if I do it right, I'm already going to be all the way over here, maybe with not quite all the way at the edge, maybe off a little bit, but I do want to be straight and have the wheel as straight as possible when I get to the brakes. So brake, 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 down to second gear, release, turn in, get on the curbing here a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way. I'm not going to go all the way out. I mean, you can kind of see the tire marks in the kind of the more darker gray racing line that tends to go all the way out to the edge. For me, I tend not to do that. At least on my own, in a gentle pace. In a race pace, or if I've overcooked the corner, yeah, I'm going to go wide. But ideally, second gear, what I'm going to try and do is bring the car back over across so that I'm parallel to the curbing, to the end of the white curbing here. And as I get to it, this next right-hander, there's, again, gearing is up to you. It's personal preference and what feels most comfortable. Um, and it depends on how well you've set up for the corner. I think ideally, as I get to this point and I get on this curbing and I go to turn in, as I get here and I hit it and I go to turn in, I'm going to let off the gas and I want to pop it to third. Um, and that way, I'm going to kind of coast the car into the corner. Um, and then as I get to the apex and I'm exiting in third, I'll slowly accelerate out. You can do it that way. The other way is if you want to keep it in second, you're not so high in second gear that it's the car is really nervous. You can also do it in second, get to the apex and start rolling back into the throttle, but then you're probably going to need to shift before the exit. So maybe out here put it in third on the way out. Ideally, you can use a bit of the exit curbing. I'm going to try and stay off the stay to the left of the red stripe as you exit out. Third gear, fourth gear, heading down to the stadium section. Now, there is braking here. And this is one of those. I hope the races run in the daytime, because I think at night the reference point I've been using in the day is not easily visible. But what I'm looking for the braking for the stadium section, my braking point is as I get to, you can just kind of see the tree on the other side of the fence. That's what I'm looking for as I'm approaching this corner. I'm looking to get that kind of spotted and locked in where it's at, so that as I get to it, that's about where I'm braking. It is also, we'll see, if it's at night, then I'm probably going to be looking, counting the green barriers here, because I should be able to say it's the next to last barrier, the next to last one barrier, the next to last banner here, or the middle of the three that I can see the logos. Either way, it's about, for me, braking is about here, fourth gear, drop it to third, turn in. I might turn in a little bit early. We'll see how again, it's like how I drive early in the race is I'm trying to get into rhythm. Later in the race, I might start to cheat the car in a little bit under braking, but for me, I'm releasing the brakes as I get to, and I guess these are the speaker systems for the stadium section. As these two go out of vision, that's where I'm releasing the brakes and turning in third gear. And ideally, what I'm trying to do is get onto the curbing late past the apex. Again, if you look at how it looks symmetrical there, but when you look at the approach to this curving, it's another one of these where it's not a symmetrical, smooth, right-hander. There is a point where it starts to go in, and then it bends a little more sharply. It's easier to see on the approach. It's actually easier to spot at speed. But usually I kind of divide it in half, where I see the second half of that curving. That's where I'm kind of trying to aim. Ideally, if I can get the right sides onto it and take advantage of that, I will. On the exit, roll back in, third gear, pop it back up to the fourth, or to fourth. Now, my braking normally for this hairpin in the stadium section is, I usually, in some of the slower cars or cars that have better brakes, um, I'm looking at the end of the green tire barrels there. Um, with this car, I find that I'm using the corner worker shack there on the right, where I see that blue roof end. That is where I'm getting on the brakes. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if I get out braked into this corner. We'll see how the race goes. Maybe I can force somebody to brake too late and go wide. But ideally, brake down to second gear. Again, balance the car through the corner with the throttle, get to the apex. Careful rolling into the power. Again, you get a little bit of help with the banking through the corner, but it does flatten out right as you're trying to roll back into the throttle. So this is another one you're going to feel a little bit of wheel spin out. Actually, the right-hander earlier is another one, wheel spin. Just be careful on the throttle. But here, roll back on the throttle, second gear. Again, you can use a bit of the exit curbing. This doesn't buck the car as much as I was expecting it to. So third gear, up. I'm going to cross that curbing. I'm going to try and clip the curbing here late. And braking for the final, two corners for me, is right where this access road ends. I'm not even sure. Is it a safety? I never really looked to see what that is. I guess I'll have to look at a Hockenheim satellite track. I guess it's like an alternate turn into the pits, or configuration, but essentially where this access road to this road ends is where I'm braking for the final turn, or final two turns. I'm not going to go all the way out to the left. I don't think you need to, but get the car maybe about mid track to set up here. Drop it down to second gear. I'm going to take the first half of this in a second. Try to get to the curbing, bring the car out. As I cross the timing line here between the two corners, short shift to third. Turn in where the dry paint goes red here on the right left side. Third gear, ease off throttle, and we'll see how it goes. I think ideally you can cross over this curbing. It's not going to doesn't buck the car when you come up back across like it did with the BMW. At least I haven't experienced it yet. We'll see how I do in the test race. Roll back into the throttle third gear, and that is lap of Hockenheim in this GT1 Strassen version. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is at this point, I'm just going to pause the stream again. It's this whole streaming through Xbox on Twitch. There's a bitrate issue where if I let the stream go too long, all of a sudden you start getting a lot of static popping. It's really annoying. So what I'm going to do, I never hear it. I just catch it after the broadcast, and I kick myself for not pausing the stream. So I'm going to pause the stream, reset the mic, and then I'm going to get into the mock race. We'll see what happens when I get some other cars on track. So I'll be right back. Okay, live stream is paused, and I can see there's somebody watching. I don't know who, but welcome, whoever you are. I don't, again, since I tend to do these more for YouTube and posting that way, I don't have any kind of stream manager. So if you chat, I ain't gonna see it, at least for a while. But let's go ahead and set this up. Actually, I need to reset the mic. Okay, Oldsmobile, back 3, down 1. Puts me in the Porsche. Okay, so we're gonna do circuit race. Race length short, I'll take care of that in a second. Now, I don't know how many laps we're doing on Thursday yet. I'm taking this as a stab in the dark. So whatever I'm racing, give or take a lap, depending on I'm doing the kind of the same general calculation Matt does. It's just, what lap time do you enter to kind of do that calc, and then how do you round it? So track, full circuit, number of laps, not automatic. We're going to do 19. Starting time of day, we're going to go random. For this season, the rolling time progression, if you're going to practice on your own, is 4x, or times 4. That means that we're not going to have we're really not going to have the constant races where we're constantly going in and out of daylight. I kind of like that, but I think ultimately, if Matt wants to try and reintroduce some weather, this probably makes more sense. So weather, I am going to set it to random, but again, much like my other broadcasts, I would rather practice in the dry, and I know that in the wet, there's just a little bit less front grip, and you got to protect the rears a little bit more. But so I'm going to turn dynamic track rubbering on. We'll start at 50, level 8 on the difficulty, and all the driver tires. Okay, the cars, I want to make sure we're all in the same. Nope. I want to make sure that we're all in the same car, so I'm going to go to Porsche. And the Strassen version. Okay, here's where it gets funky. And I think this is the other thing that we're having to work around is it was kind of weird. It was on club rules, but it looked like sport rules. So I'm just going to reset that to sport. I think that's fine. Ghost back markers off, 4 times tire wear. We don't no disqualification. Standing start, we'll do it random. Though I'm going to let everybody by anyway. Mandatory pit stops 1. No teams. Okay, I think that's good. Accept all. And let's see what we get. Okay, night race. Tell us about Hockenheim.
The Hockenheim ring is known for its long, fast straights and tight corners, which means those heavy braking zones will provide many passing opportunities.
That's the hope. We'll see what happens in the race. I think with the draft of this car, again, we're running max downforce, and then couple that with the improved drafting in Forza. Um, there's going to be hopefully some good overtaking attempts down in the hairpin. But let's go ahead and tire wear. My initial read on the tires, and I'll put this in the chat, is for Hockenheim. So soft, medium, hard, 5, 8, 11, give or take a lap, depending on how if you're purposely trying to drive and extend the life of it. But generally, the tires are going to hit 60% somewhere on that lap, usually late in the lap. If I say 5 laps, it'll probably be late in that lap, or it might even be under 60% at the end of lap 5, but then it's going to go to 60 like very early in the 6th lap. So again, your mileage may vary, but just as a general rule of thumb, in a 19 lap race, it does look like for a one stopper, hard medium. Here, this one might be. I haven't. Again, I don't really time how long I'm pit lane anymore, and try to factor that in. I'm not good with strategy, but this one might be a case where maybe you do a hard, maybe you run hards for maybe you run hards for 9 laps, and again, it depends on the race length. You might run the hards for the opening stint, and then you do 2 on soft instead of the mediums. But it is an extra pit stop, but you do get it's at least a second and a half per lap, depending on how on your pace. So a lot of interesting things to happen. Plus, the other thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if bucket delays change, because it's not like I don't like finishing on the podium, but I think to try and balance things out, Group 3, Group 4 might be starting a little further back, but we'll see what happens on Thursday. That's the other thing I want to change before I get into this is, nope, manual clutch. Cars in first. Okay, let's go ahead and start race. Okay, it looks like I'm starting towards the front half. So I'm just going to pull off on the left here, let everybody by. Hopefully not spin the car out. All right. So nighttime. Oh, you know what? Yeah, it would help if I actually go in and set fuel and tire, because I really, the whole point is to simulate what I might do on a Thursday. Yeah, I don't need 30 laps of fuel. I will put in just into 20. I am going to actually start on the hard tire. That's typically what I do. Okay, now we'll start race. Watch it put me at the front. It put me in the front on the inside. Nice, thank you. Ugh. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go through the first turn and then pull over to the right, let everybody by. If I don't stall it. Okay, you're going slow, fine. If you don't want me to start last, that's fine. Okay. Tippy-toe through the hairpin, tires. Oh my god, there's traffic. Okay. Gonna probably brake a little bit early. Ah, nice. Nice language there on the back of the car there, Patsy. Yeah, that it's at night. I can't see the tree. I'll have to sort that out. Driver tires. You know, I mean, I would say the driver tires. I could say there has been improvements from update to update. They still do some interesting things. Again, it's how they race each other in traffic is always, I think, the hardest thing for them to try and get right. Yeah, you just overcooked your front tires. A little bit of a draft there. A little bit of a draft there. All right, definitely going to take a look into turn one here. Not turn one, hairpin. Can't get it done, but he's leaving it open for me. Thank you. Okay, drive by Braille. You hear the thunk. Yeah, a little bit late there. Notice I'm not just almost at 90 degrees for that corner, but I'm not really turning past it. Just kind of letting the car do the work. If it's going to understeer, more wheel might help get the car to turn, but then I'm putting excessive wear, and then I got to be careful if the tires grip up really quick and hooks the car. Oh, that's a little wide. Again, I can't talk and drive at the same time. But you all know that if you watch it enough for these track guides. The other thing too is I do, and this might be another difference in tire wear. I haven't experimented with it yet, but I do run, even though I'm on the wheel, I am running normal steering. Because I don't think I'm talented enough to handle the sim twitch that some of y'all get. And that might also play into the wear. Whoop. It gives you guys have, I mean, again, the advantage of sim steering, I believe, is I would have a little more what I would call point into the corner. The car's a little more responsive on turn in. But the drawback is that you kind of lose, you know, and you've seen, you know, if you've seen track guides, and, you know, I can kind of do, even on the wheel, I can kind of do the counter steer flick and not have to worry about getting into a tank slapper, you know, if I have to do, you know, a correction. Hard tires, I need to brake a little earlier. Either I need to brake a little bit earlier for one, or I need to be a little more solid on the braking. Yeah. Ooh, taking a look at the inside. There you go. You go ahead and go wide. Thank you. I don't know. Maybe the driver tires are, closer to real players. Yeah. So for this, I'm kind of looking at where just before that fence kind of gets close to the wall. Hello, Mr. Greenwald. All right, so I'm going to do a tire check on the end of lap 5. I should be somewhere in the mid 20s if the 11 lap estimate is correct. And part of that too is early in this race, because I'm dealing with a lot of traffic, I'm not pushing, I'm not running, consistent fast lap times where I'm pushing the tires because I've had to deal with, work through slower traffic. So, the wear may be a little less than what I might see on Thursday, depending on how hard I'm racing everybody else. So, see, there's that wheel spin. So the other turn I want to mention, wheel spin, that you got to be careful on is a bit of a confidence lift there. Is this one here? Is this left-hander? Just be careful on the way out. It's easy to get, because it flattens out a little bit. It's easy to get the back end to step out. This one you can as well. Notice that one. You just kind of note where, well, it was a little bit late. That was way late. Okay. Slowly bring the car back over. That's fine. Try and be as safe on the rejoin as possible. I mean, I know they're driver tires, but still. I do want to try and race them how I would race human players on, humans on Thursdays. Yeah, mediums or the hards do not like that braking point. Or at least for the amount of braking pressure I'm putting on the... I wanted that at 26. Yeah, so we're well in that 11 lap window. Yeah, if you can use that inside curbing, just keep it off the bread loaf, the red bread loaf curbing if you can. Again, only just shy of 90 degrees, and I'm not paying attention. It pushes off. Push, 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 push. I need to be a little bit better through there. That's a bit better. Still pushing a little bit wide. A little bit wider than I would want to. Wide there, just deal with it. I'll try that in second next time. A little bit of a lockup there. I'm so tentative through there. A little bit of a confidence lift on turn in. It's going wide. A little late there. A bit early in the turn in. Again, it's just, I'm still trying to figure out if it's at night, where do I need to brake there, to be as consistent as possible. Because I can't see my normal reference point. Then you might be able to do this turn in third. I just found I'm more comfortable in second there, and then doing the short shift to third out of the last corner. Okay, lap 10. 44. Oh, that's way late. I had a brain fade. we go. There's flat out. Just had to trust the car. Let's see how little steering I needed out of that corner. Still turning in a little early. Whoops. That's a bit. Oh, good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Won't do it again. Yeah, I'm 50% now. So I think the early laps where I wasn't really pushing the tires that much because I was trying to get through slower traffic, I didn't wear them out as quick. So even though I'll still probably be under 60% by the end of the lap. It's not worth going for a 19 lap race. I know I can do 8 laps on the mediums. It's not worth staying out an extra lap. Yeah, second gear's probably the better way to go if you're trying to minimize your wheel spin or the risk of the wheel spin. I didn't set that up really well, but we're going to box this lap. Pit lane entry. I'm just going to go ahead and then it catches you right there. So you still got to be a little gentle on the throttle trying to get the car into the pits. All right. Let's see how we do. I'm going to go to, we're going to go medium tires. I don't need fuel. Time to get a little drink. Should chuck the water bottle like they used to do in IndyCar. All right. Watch out pretty early. Gonna keep it to the right because now if it was clear I could move over to the left, but it's not, so and just be very careful there. Let's see if we can catch Patsy now. Turned in a little bit early, but oh, definitely so much more grip. See, in the higher gear, because I'm not getting the benefit of the engine braking, the car's going to want to push a little bit more. So I still think going down to second is probably better there. This gaggle of cars in front of us here. It'll make you think about it. Almost made it work. Properly planned, just poorly executed. The driver tires are making them my, kind of one of my, are demonstrating one of my examples of, trying to put more steering in than you need to overcome understeer, because when the front tires finally grip up, the car lurches. So that's another reason why I've tried to be as smooth with my steering as possible and just find that what's the right amount that I need where I can kind of balance the car with the throttle, or worst case scenario if I have to get to the brake. Turn is much easier. I missed the braking, so we're just going to salvage as much as we can. Let's see if we can catch Tom. Yeah, I want to try a second gear. If I get a good turn in, I'll try second gear. I think I work a lot harder in the hairpin in first gear than I do in second. Well, I don't have to worry about catching Tom because he's pitting. Yeah, I should really stay off the curbs. But I do like second. That's what I like to see up in front of me, door banging. This time. Just feels a little logy coming out of that corner. This This will be interesting. Is it going to challenge me in? Nope. Yeah, we're good on the mediums. In fact, if there might have been able to do 9 laps on the mediums. Medium soft perhaps? It depends how many laps we do on Thursday.
Remaining.
Break a little bit earlier. Let's see if we can get a draft down the straight here. I'm beginning to wonder. I have to look at the settings for the race, but we all should be 4x on the tire wear. I'm kind of surprised. Like I'm surprised, Ziggy there has not pitted, but 17 laps in, even on the hard tire, that car should be. And I guess I'm making the assumption that all the driver tires are on race tires. I think this car, they could be racing on more, kind of sport rubber or like that, where the wear isn't as dramatic, or the follow-up isn't as dramatic, but the overall pace would be a little bit slower. But I'll take a look at the tire wear then in between streams, just to make sure I have it set right. 3 laps of fuel remaining. That's okay. I only got to do 2. A little bit of a lockup.
One more. Finish strong.
So we'll say 48. We'll see what the tire wear is. Yeah, coming out of the last corner. I think it's one of those. Ooh, that was way late. What am I doing? I think it's one of those that technically I'll be under 60% at the end of the lap, but so close to 60%, it's not worth. It wouldn't be worth doing, you know, a 9th lap on the tire. Oh yeah, now I'm just totally. That's not a tire issue. That's a me issue. Where it's so close to 60% at the end of lap 8, it's not worth pushing a 9th lap. Again, there, I didn't put more steering in to get the car through that corner. I just kind of, just kind of adjusted the throttle to balance the car. That's what I do. And that's late. That's all right though. It's the last lap, no danger. Whoop. Hey, you can take that inside curbing, but not too much. 1 and 33. Yeah, well, 33, 49, so let's say 34. Yeah, 19 laps is probably the distance, because you factor in bucket delays on top of that. Which would add, like, for us in the back, at least another 70 seconds. So yeah, 19. 19 is probably what the race is going to be. But that is Hockenheim in this Porsche GT1 Strassen version. Again, the curbing is always the biggest question as far as how compliant is the car with curbing, because Hockenheim tends to like to chuck cars around if they're sprung too stiffly. But I think we can probably get away with a little more curbing than in previous cars we've raced here, and certainly, I think the biggest thing to be careful of is how aggressive you are on the throttle out of the slow corners, especially the ones where you don't get a lot of benefit on banking or where it flattens out. That might get the back end to step out. But so that'll do it for this track guide. I'm going to take a little break and think about the other race this week coming up is Le Mans in the Old Mulsanne. And I'll probably do kind of regular, at least the first half, a regular track guide. But Le Mans is very unique in how the mock race that I do won't properly demonstrate what we're going to be facing. So I may actually go to the replay from the shakedown to kind of talk about what's unique about Le Mans with this car that we'll be to help strategize, especially for the long Mulsanne straight. But anyhow, enough talking by me. Hope you guys are having a good weekend so far, and happy racing.